I smell a disgusting amount of Volvo gravy. What's up guys, it's Drifts and Lifts here. All right, so today's episode, we have some really exciting stuff for you guys. So if you watched the last episode, you will notice we had the wagon on the dyno here at Post Haste Performance. I was just prepping everything, getting it ready for the tuning session today that Dan is going to be doing on this car. So if you haven't seen the last video, go check it out. I did a really in-depth kind of just look over of all the new parts that we put on this car. I'll really quickly go over it right now as well. But before I get into that, guys, I want to give a huge shout out to Post Haste Performance. So if you guys don't know already, this is one of the biggest sponsors of the channel. Dan has been helping me out for like 5 or 6 years now. And honestly, I gotta say, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I have been able to do without Dan here at Post Haste Performance and the whole crew. They have helped me tremendously, just with, you know, everything, tuning, installations of ECUs. It's a full-fledged performance shop, mechanic shop, and dyno tuning shop. So they can basically cover anything you would like, any kind of make, model, build. They're also a supplier of Max ECU and ECU Masters. So if you guys have any tuning, any performance stuff you want done, check out Post Haste Performance. The link to their website is in the description of this video. All right guys, so if you watched the last video, you'll notice we went a lot different on the setup. So I'll just quickly go over it right now. So last time we got rod knock on this motor, we had a bone stock B230 FT motor in it. I pulled it out of Oliver, my roommate's car, and we slapped it in here, and you know, it lasted a little while, but on 30 pounds of boost, and it was making 355 wheel horsepower. It only lasted about like a week or two. So I was beating on it really hard, but the problem with going with a stock engine that's never been checked, you know, stock rod bearings, who knows the condition of the engine, is a lot of the times you're gonna get one that's not so great and up to snuff of handling the severe abuse. So that motor got rod knock. We don't really know why. It could be a number of things. We put it had an aluminum harmonic balancer on it, which actually is not a harmonic balancer, it's just a crank pulley. That could have been causing some issues with the bearing wear. Also the turbo was running out of oil because we were running too big of a input line. We needed a restrictor on the turbo to make all the oiling okay. So we got all that sorted, and now we got a new motor in here. So this motor, guys, is from Harold, the Beater 940 that I had not too long ago. So this is a 1994 squirter motor, so it actually has piston oil squirters in it. We did a lot of different stuff on this motor. So if you guys watched the last video, I had it all apart. We did some H-beam connecting rods from maxpeedingrods. We did our Miss Huff 531 head with the crazy ass Timos 1310 cam, the crazy one with the insane chop. So this head is actually shaved 2 millimeters, and we're actually running a smaller timing belt on it. So when you shave a head, you have to run a smaller timing belt because you won't get the belt tension without doing that. So it has one less tooth than the factory belt. Everything's good to go. So we have our HE341 whole set turbo on here, built by Total Turbo Services. So another sponsor of the channel. Check out Total Turbo Services if you guys need anything turbo related done. He's got a full turbo rebuild shop, and he can hook you up. So also, yeah, combined with the H-beam rods, the head, the turbo. Also, we did another PCV setup. So one of the problems I was having was these motors aren't able to get rid of their crankcase pressure quick enough, especially when you're going crazy with the boost and that kind of thing. So we actually added another fitting to the valve cover. That's going into our Vibrant catch can, and then also the factory PCV hose is going into there as well. So that catch can has a breather on it with a baffle. And then if you guys saw the last video, so we actually did, I don't know if you can see on this GoPro, but we did a drain down to the oil pan. So issue I was having, I was spitting up a lot of oil through these lines in the past, and I think this is gonna solve our issue. Some people say you should run it to a vacuum source, like pre-turbo and that kind of thing, but the only issue with that is it can gum up your intercooler and stuff with a bunch of oil, so I kind of wanted to stay away from that, so I think this is gonna work out pretty good. This catch can has a really big breather in it, so it's able to get rid of the crankcase pressure as we need. So another thing we did is an AEM fuel pump in the tank, so it's got all the fuel we could ever want now. Another thing is these 1000cc injectors. So 1000cc Snake Eater Performance injectors. I found these off Marketplace for like 150 bucks. They work pretty good. They flow tested fine. Dan and Helen here at Post Haste Performance have an injector tester, so they can actually test injectors to make sure they're okay before they put them in an engine and blow shit up basically. So combined with these injectors, because they're a lot bigger than the last setup, if you guys remember the last setup, we had it on an E30 ethanol mixture. So that's more or less like half ethanol from the pump and half 94 octane. So this time, because if you guys remember last time, we actually had this head on another motor. This is the 4th motor that this car has had, so it's a bit ridiculous, but I'm hoping this one's gonna hold together. Sorry, with the new rods, we did new rod bearings. It still has the stock piston rings. We couldn't get any new piston rings. It's still stock pistons, and yeah, that's about it for the bottom end. So what we're doing, guys, is we're going full ethanol. So last time it was on a half ethanol mixture because that's all our injectors could handle, but now we got a lot bigger injectors, so we're gonna go on a full E60 mixture, maybe a little bit less, like E55. It's gonna be a lot better, and especially with the crazy compression that this head has, it's gonna really wail up top, and I think it's gonna make some really good power. So who knows what we're gonna run the boost up to, probably like 20, 30 pounds in that region. This car still has the M47 factory transmission with a spec, some sort of blue plated spec clutch. So the clutch holds pretty well. Now we just don't know what the limitation of 4th gear in this tranny is. It's funny because on the forums, everybody says that an M46, M47 transmission is really weak. That may be the case, but honestly, in my experience, I've had these transmissions hold up to like 350 wheel horsepower. The last setup, I was still running this transmission and it never blew up. So we're going far into uncharted territory. You know, I don't think anybody's ever put this much power down to M47 transmission. 3rd gear is apparently pretty weak in them, but 4th gear is apparently, you know, somewhat strong. So we're gonna be dyno tuning in 4th because that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So speaking of transmissions, guys, I wanna show you something really cool that I mentioned in the last video, I think, but I couldn't show you. So let's head over here. Also, guys, if you didn't know, here at Post Haste Performance, Dan and Helen actually have an engine dyno. So this is the engine dyno room. We don't have an engine on it right now, but he's actually tuned a lot of engines on this dyno already. So this is kind of a new thing, really cool. You can actually get Post Haste Performance to build an engine for you, and they can tune it on this engine dyno, and then you can drop it in your car yourself if you want. So really dope. What we're gonna be doing, guys, is when we do the NA build, so hopefully this car lasts a little while, I can get some good footage out of it, get some good content going for you guys, because honestly, the channel's been kind of slow. I realize we've been just piecing together everything, trying to get everything lined up, and finally we're kind of making some progress again. So what was I saying though? When we do the NA build, once I get some funds together, and also guys, shout out to all you guys that ordered hoodies. So we have our new Epic Volvo Drift, Drifts and Lifts Epic Volvo Drift hoodies. So it's got this logo on the back as well. If you guys want to get one of those, as well as our Got Red Block toques, those are on the Drifts and Lifts store right now. So you can head to the link in the description of this video, the Drifts and Lifts store, and you can get your merchandise. Great way to support the channel. I really appreciate you guys buying hoodies and stuff. All right, guys, we got some overnight parts from Sweden. So would you look at that? So I think I've been talking about this on the channel for a little while now. And it's kind of funny, I looked at a post like 2 years ago, I was talking about this. So it's taken forever, but finally, guys, we have a proper transmission for one of our Volvos. And this is gonna be going in the Panel Wagon because that's the only car that makes enough power to actually make use of this. So shout out to my good friend Dennis Blom from Sweden. So if you guys don't know Dennis, he's the guy that does all the work on all the heads. So he actually built the head on this engine for me. He built the head for my NA setup as well. That's just been sitting in the garage, kind of in the back and not really doing anything, but we're gonna get that going pretty soon, I hope. So Dennis is a machinist, and he has a really, really cool 240 Volvo that he built a 2.5 liter NA engine in. I think it made like 260 to the wheel. So it's a full built engine with ITBs and the whole 9 yards. So really cool. Dennis also has a 630 wheel horsepower turbo red block. So he got this hooked up for me, and this is a BMW ZF 5-speed from an E36 328i. So what they did is they chopped off the bell housing and welded a red block bell housing to it. So this tranny will bolt directly to the red block now. Dennis included a, I guess a throw bearing. He also gave me a clutch disc that's gonna work with this input shaft. And we also have our TRX shifter. TXR, I don't know, but really dope. So that's just gonna bolt to there. This kind of bolts in the factory location. Really sick. I'm really stoked to run this. I love shifters that are just like this style. So we got our M90 drive shaft, so that's going to bolt up and actually be the perfect length. We can run a stock Guibo because BMW Guibos are the same as Volvo. So really stoked about this, guys. We're going to be putting this in the panel wagon once we get it tuned today. So I think I can hear the panel wagon start up right now, actually. What we're gonna do, guys, is let Dan work his magic. He's gonna be tuning on the Emu Black standalone that is in that car. So last time we had this engine setup, or a similar engine setup, we ran it on only pump gas, and it made 317 wheel horsepower. So I think with ethanol, we're gonna breach the 400 wheel horsepower mark. And obviously to the flywheel, that is like 450, 500, depending on what dyno you go to. So really stoked, guys. We're just gonna hang around, and hopefully the panel wagon doesn't blow up. Hopefully it survives, and then hopefully we'll be able to see some big numbers out of this thing. So hope you guys like the video. All right, guys, so we are back at Post Race Performance, day 2 of tuning. We had a bunch of stuff happen on my fuel line. So I actually deleted, if you guys saw the one video, I deleted the under the car pump, the main pump that's stock on a Volvo 740. And we just ran it to only a fuel filter under there. So when I was, I guess, messing with like the fuel filter and the fuel pump assembly under the car, it kind of shifted the lines, and the lines actually made contact, the hard line made contact with the drive shaft and wore a hole in it. And luckily it didn't spark and blow up the shop, but yeah, we had to fix that. So we put a new fuel line in there, high pressure line, so it can be run under high pressure. And I think we're gonna be good to go. So we just got done with pump gas tuning. I told Dan to be super conservative with the pump gas. I don't plan on ripping on the car unless there's ethanol in it. So we're just gonna run it, you know, if I wanna rip on the car, I'm gonna fill it up with ethanol, make the full power, have full boost and that kind of thing. So I think we made 220 wheel horsepower at like 11 pounds of boost just now on pump gas, like 180 foot-pounds of torque. This cam setup with this head and everything, it doesn't make a lot of torque. It's more of a horsepower, more of a revving engine. So, you know, I may change it up in the future, but I think it's gonna be pretty sweet right now. So we were kind of concerned about the oil pressure. It's running about 20 PSI, a little bit more idle, and it seems to go up to like 45, 50, wind it out. So it's not great, but it's not the worst. Alrighty guys, so that is a wrap up of the tune. So I'm gonna show you guys the numbers right now. Pretty happy with what it made. We actually ran into like the limitations of some of our mechanical parts that were on here. So let's go over it right now. So we got the graph here. Before I get into this, guys, I will mention that post-haste dyno is very, very conservative on the number. But so what we got on the graph right here, guys, is our comparison from last time we had this setup. So if you guys remember, it was like, you know, months ago, we had this exact setup minus the HBM rods on only pump gas. So this was before we actually had the ethanol in it. So let's take a look around what's going on. So the thick lines are the new setup and the dotted lines are the old setup. The blue is torque, red is horsepower, and we got the purple line, that is boost. So last time, you know, the curve's really similar, obviously, but the ethanol, we were able to gain another 100 horsepower pretty much. So we got 413 horsepower to the wheels at right around 7,400 RPM and 332 foot-pounds of torque at something like just over 5,000. So as you guys can see, it's a really high-end oriented motor. With this cam setup and the head being the way it is, it really makes all of its power in the top end. So whether that's good or bad, you know, it is what it is. A better, more efficient setup would be a less camshaft and, you know, a little bit less compression and just a little bit more boost. It would probably be just a better graph that way. But this is going to be really fun, and like, you guys cannot, you know, you can't deny that the chop sound just makes this awesome. I love rolling up to a stoplight, just sounds like a V8, pretty cool. So yeah, this is pretty wild. I'm really excited to take this for a rip, guys. It's gonna be pretty nuts. So on a dyno jet, this engine would have made about 476 wheel horsepower and 380 foot-pounds of torque. So it is really, it's basically a 500 horsepower red block, not to the wheels, but it is, you know, to the flywheel. This is a 500 horsepower red block. So pretty darn stoked, guys. This was at, yeah, like we said, 31 pounds of boost. So pretty crazy. Like, you know, we were able to get a lot of boost in there, way more timing than last time. Last time on the pump gas, we could only do like 21 pounds of boost, and it really wanted to detonate. It was really bad, really unsafe kind of setup with the pump gas, just really prone to knock and that kind of thing. Now it's a lot better. With all this ethanol in it, you know, knock wasn't really too much of an issue. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked on this, guys. You know, it can't go wrong. So the limitations of this setup was actually the AEM 340 fuel pump. We had it in the tank. We actually had to rewire it because we had it running off the stock in-tank pump wiring, which is actually way too small gauge wire, and it actually didn't get enough voltage to the pump. It wasn't putting out, you know, all the flow that it could. And we actually ran into the fuel pressure dropping off. So we changed the wiring, that helped it a good amount, but we actually still ran into basically the end of this pump flow. So one way we might be able to get over that is increasing the line size from the fuel filter to the fuel rail. It's still the stock 5/16 line. So if we were able to bump that line size up, it's gonna help the fuel pump kind of flow more without having to work it so hard. So in the future, that's probably what we're gonna do, is go a little bit bigger fuel line from the filter to the pump, or to the rail, sorry. And another thing is these injectors were pretty much maxed out. So at 3 bar fuel pressure, these injectors were at 95 duty cycles. So we're running on an E85 mixture. So that means 55% ethanol. The pump ethanol in Canada here is about E60. So we had it just down like a little bit, just because we had a little bit of pump gas in the tank and didn't want to pump it out, but because going more ethanol would have made our injectors run out even faster. So we're pretty much on the ragged edge of this setup, guys, and as you can see, the power actually starts to fall off at the top end there. So we're actually pretty much limited on our turbo size and our stock valves right now. So, you know, it makes good power up to there, but it just can't flow. So this exhaust housing, it's being outflowed essentially. So it's more or less a bottleneck of the setup, is the exhaust housing on this turbo. You know, this turbo's dope. It's a whole set HE 341, but you know, it leaves a little bit to be desired on the side, on the exhaust side. I did port out the wastegate to get it to flow a little bit better that sense, but maybe a little bit bigger exhaust housing would actually benefit on this setup. But I'm pretty happy, guys. Like, this is gonna be wild, and once I get that ZF transmission in there, I'm gonna be able to bang through the gears and just keep it, you know, right at redline. It's gonna be pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited. So I think that's pretty much a wrap up of the video, guys. Actually, one sec, before we get going, I just wanna show you, blow by was definitely an issue. So as you can see, we have our catch can set up here, and it was squirting oil out here. Mainly it just kind of built up a little bit of oil on this screen here. Blow by was kind of just like puffing it out or whatever. So you know, stock piston rings and that kind of thing. It, you know, this engine it's not perfect. Next time we do this, we're gonna do something different, but I think I'm gonna leave the panel wagon where it is, guys. We're just gonna try to enjoy it. I may end up pulling this engine and doing some oil pump mods. That's another thing I didn't mention, is our oil pressure was staying around 45, 50 at wide open throttle, full rev. That's, you know, that's in spec, that's okay, but I would like to see a little bit more. So I might end up pulling the motor and taking the oil pump out and shimming the pressure relief spring in it. And also doing a different setup for the O-rings, because the O-rings on the oil pumps on these engines are super hard to get perfect. And if you don't get them seated in there really nice, you're gonna lose oil pressure out the O-ring, and it's actually gonna squirt oil out there. So you definitely don't want that, because you know, when you're revving an engine this hard, you lose oil pressure for a split second, the motor's gonna be done. So luckily it held up through this dyno session, and it did not blow up. The thing's still running good. One kind of funny thing, if you guys look, it actually flipped my belt around. So this belt is literally running like this. And it actually ran like this for like majority of the tuning session. We didn't even notice it. So really weird. Maybe I'll just leave it like that. I don't know. A little bit iffy, but I think, guys, we're pretty much on the ragged edge of this setup, and the limitation now is probably stock exhaust manifold, stock intake manifold, and that turbocharger. So we're gonna leave it like this. We're gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna take it for a rip today, obviously. It's already dark out, and I'm gonna do, you know, I actually have to put insurance on it, so it's not even insured. That'd be a little sketchy. But yeah, all in all, guys, pretty darn sick. And before I go, make sure if you want one of these hoodies, you get one soon, because actually we've been selling them like crazy. So shout out to all you guys that have bought a hoodie. I really appreciate it. Things were tight, and it's definitely helping out the channel so we can get moving and keep the ball rolling. So next up on the channel, guys, I'm gonna do a couple videos with the panel wagon. We're gonna enjoy ourselves for a bit, and then we're gonna start building our NA motor. I know it's been a long time coming, and once I get, you know, another $1,000, $2,000 kicking around, we're gonna send the block out for machine work, and we're gonna order some new pistons, and then we're gonna be assembling the NA motor. So I don't know, probably in the next month or two, that's gonna be the plan. But I got to install the ZF transmission in the wagon. That's going to be really sick, because the gear ratio on the ZF is shorter. So it's actually going to help out with this high RPM setup, probably make the most out of it. We have so much RPM, so we can, you know, we can run a shorter gearing and that kind of thing. Make up the torque that way. So if you guys have any tuning and performance stuff you guys want done, you're in the lower mainland, you know, BC, Canada, Alberta, check out Post Ace Performance. If you guys don't know already, their website is in the description of this video, so you can call them, and any questions you have, any stuff you want done, give Dan and Helen a shout, and they can get you covered. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna leave you there. Like and subscribe for thick Volvo sludge. Peace out.